Hello and welcome to Tonalist Painting with M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and bringing you guys a old amber pond. And the pond is kind of in the distance, but this was based on a photograph I took from my recent trip to England, and actually it was the day that we were um, leaving England, and we were driving up the freeway, and I was kind of a little bummed out because we went in October, and I was hoping to get a good change of color, but it really had just kind of started the day the day before that we were leaving. So that's okay, actually. I mean, I like I like changes of color. I love when the trees have got red leaves and things, but you don't see much of that out here in New Zealand, where most of the trees here are some sort of evergreen tree. That's not to say they all have pine needles either. They have these little leaves, little deciduous, I guess is a word. I don't really know, but most of the native trees here in New Zealand are they just don't turn color when the weather changes. So, but we took a detour and went down some streets, and not that this scene really evidenced a lot of change of color either, but it was a neat little pond and a neat little scene, and I did quite a bit of editing to it to get it to work, but I'm pretty happy with the painting, and this is one of the paintings that I completed very recently. Just a few weeks ago, really. It's called Amber Pond, and the whole thing is keyed off of golden tones, and not a fiery orangey gold, but more of a greenish bronzy gold. And I did several paintings in my last pass that were either going towards a bronze gold or a red gold, and I'm sure I'll be sharing a few of them here. One of the things I kind of had in my mind with this last particular pass of paintings was to sort of throw things into a definite color range, instead of doing my usual green violet thing. I decided to throw everything into a distinct sort of bronzy area, and I'm quite happy with this painting, as you know, evidenced by the fact I'm putting it up, and so yeah, I'm happy to share it with you, and hopefully you dig it too. Now, this is the study. We'll be doing the larger one next week, and they're pretty similar to each other, I must say. It's to the point where I have to double check when I look at the icons in Windows or whatever. It's not real certain which is which, but which is good. Nothing I hate more than when the study is infinitely better than the larger, more finished painting, since the study is basically there as a part of the painting process for the larger painting, and they're designed to stand on their own, and I sell probably more studies than anything else, since pardon me, I sell them quite affordably, and you know, you could pick up one of my studies for, you know, $150 this size, so which, you know, if I was looking to buy art, I'd be all over that, since when my wife and I travel, we like to buy art, and we always like to buy an original. We're not terribly wealthy, so it's generally a small original. Oh, not to mention the fact we live in a fairly small house. We don't have a lot of wall space, and what wall space we do have is kind of full of a lot of my paintings. Anyway, now, I put up a post yesterday with the 25 days of tonalism. I think it was day 15. And I talked a lot there about Impressionism versus tonalism, to answer a question someone had on one of my videos about that. So I didn't really get into what's been going on in the studio, but I'd like to talk a little bit about that today. Now, I recently made a Facebook friend. His name is David Jones. He's a very, very good tonalist painter, and I like his work quite a lot. And you can look him up. I think he's in England, and he does really, really nice little paintings. And the thing is, he had a video up showing his texturing process, and he uses a white gesso on wood panel some type of wood panel, maybe masonite or what we call MDF out here in New Zealand. I don't really know, but I had originally tried a process like that many years ago. Before I actually moved out to New Zealand, I was experimenting with heavily textured boards, and I did some nice paintings on them, but I eventually decided to get away from it, and for whatever reason. And then a couple years back, I decided to do a kind of a light, subtle texture on all of my boards. I had been doing it on the 5x7s for quite a while, but last week, after seeing this video by David Jones, I ordered myself some black gesso, which is quite thick, and I grabbed a panel and I texturized it. And then when that was dry, it was acrylic gesso, I went over it with a good coating of burnt umber oil paint, which is something I've been doing on my boards for a while to answer that query again on the Facebook. I had for ages, if you see a reddish background in my painting, that's burnt sienna, and it's just the transparent gesso that's been tinted with burnt sienna. But last year sometime I had switched over to burnt umber as my background color, and one of the things I ran into was, instead of just painting on the burnt umber tinted transparent gesso, I decided that I would do a coating of oil paint over the top of that, because I was really looking to emulate the sort of effects I was getting by painting over the top of old paintings. And what I've been doing there was just coating, sanding down an old painting and then coating it with a layer of burnt umber, and then doing a painting on top of that. And what I like about that is I can do some wiping away if I need to, and when things are peeking through, it's not it's an oil paint layer that's peeking through, and not a raw acrylic gesso layer. So there will always be areas that peek through from your ground. Anyway, so I took a board last week and I textured it pretty heavily and let it dry, and then went over with the oil paint and the burnt umber tone and let that dry. And then pardon me, Friday I put it up on the easel, and it was a 7x10, and I will be sharing it here. It came out really nice, and you know, it was a challenge though to paint on this real thick textured surface. One thing I liked about it was that it forced me to use a lot more paint, and which is something I'm always trying to do. The other thing that was kind of good, I think it was good, you know, but I guess the jury's out. We'll have to see what people's reaction were. Is that it made it very hard to get any kind of real detail, which I think is maybe a good thing. I think the paintings usually succeed or fail based on the large shapes and the colors and the composition, and details. You know, they can seem really important when you're executing them, but the reality is that they're not terribly important. If anything, they can detract. If there is too much detail, then you're getting into something that looks too tight and doesn't have a loose, comfortable feeling and quality, which is, I think, what you should always strive for in a landscape painting. That's my feeling. Now, some artists do have success painting highly detailed photorealistic scenes, and more power to them. It's not what I'm interested in, and I think it's not the way to go, at least not if you're trying to accomplish what I'm trying to do, which is just kind of create a beautiful painting. And so I did this painting, and I did it all in orange tones. It's actually a scene that I painted many times, but this particular scene was cast, and in fact I've done a moon scene with this painting, and I'd also done kind of a normal rainy day scene, but this particular painting I did Friday was everything was cast in orange yellows and deep russet tones, and earthy reddish greens in the grass and the trees. And I'm quite happy with the painting. I think it looks very nice, quite, you know, rich. And I was enjoying just scooping bunches of paint on it because to get everything filled in, I had to I got to sit there and scrub with the brush, and I had to do a certain amount of scrubbing, but really I just would grab more paint and slap more paint on, and again, that makes it kind of difficult to do detail, but the end result looks very painterly, and I'm really happy with it, to the point where I had some time Saturday. I had to do a bunch of work here at the house, but I did go in the studio Saturday, and I had purchased some more MDF, masonite, as it's known in the States, for my ply guy. He had some scraps laying around, which I had cut to some of the sizes I like to work with, and I went in yesterday and basically texturized those with the black gesso. So I've been playing with it for a while. Whether I stick with it long term or not, I can't say. I can't say it's a nice change for right now, and I was inspired by David Jones's video where he showed how he texturizes boards, and it reminded me that it was something I enjoyed playing with long ago. And sometimes you engage with things in your process and you end up bending them, but in fact, no, this is definitely true of certain scenes I've tried to paint. Many years ago, I might have tried to paint a scene and failed, but I can put it up on the easel now and manage to do it because I have more experience, and I think that's the main reason. I'm able to take it on and successfully accomplish a lot of things now that I couldn't before, and which is one of the main reasons I stress to all new painters that you should just be cranking out paintings right and left, and for that reason I recommend working fairly small, not too small, but work small. Try and do a painting every day if you can, and it'll take you an hour and a half or an hour, and maybe if you want to do a second pass, that could take another hour and a half, but you want to cover a lot of ground, because it's the only way I know of to get good. You could read a million books and watch a million videos. You could put the videos under your pillow at night and hope that it's going to seep up into your brain through osmosis, but there's really no substitute for actually just painting a lot. Anyway, getting close to the end here. If you like these videos, please click subscribe, and that lets me know that people are into them and like it. And also YouTube will let you know when I have a new video up. You can go to my website, you can follow my blog there. That's landscapepainter.co.nz, and there's also a link underneath the video where you can click on to follow the blog. On the blog are some high resolution images of this painting and 2 detail shots for you to check out. So I'll be back next week, and meanwhile, please take good care and stay out of trouble.